Good evening. It is February 18th, 2025. The time, New York City time, is 6:29 p.m. My name is James Freda, and it's been many years since I've done a YouTube video. I stopped for a very long time due to shadow banning and harassment through comments and through people. And I spent many years on the streets of New York City proverbially talking to myself, but not truly, but in essence, on paper, talking to myself. Because I said to myself, why make a YouTube video when it just sits and collects dust on the internet highway and hardly a word spoken except a negative comment? And so I said, I will direct my YouTube video straight up to the Lord above, knowing that He hears me. And it was many, many years that I did not create a YouTube video, but now I finally decided to do one. A more accepted form of, not to be critical, but a more accepted form of people talking to themselves when they're looking at a screen, or when there's a microphone. In essence, like we really always are talking to ourselves, even if we're talking to another person. If that makes any sense, who knows? Probably not. But that's the general idea of what I'm saying. And I'm sure this video will, maybe get like one or two negative comments over the course of 3 years, with maybe one like every 2 years and a couple negatives. I'm just deciding to do this as something new, and there's so many topics I could get into, and it's going to be very difficult for me to stick to one exact subject. So this is just really going to be just a whole mishmash of random meanderings about whatever things come to mind. I mean, if you see my YouTube page, is a lot of the videos are about targeted individuals, but that subject, like it's an important subject, it's a serious subject, but it's not the only subject in the world, obviously. To most people, like to this day, most people have never heard of the thing. There was one New York Times article about it. The headline was, "They see gangs of stalkers." And I'm like, wow, that is a real good hit piece, because I was like, that sounds completely schizophrenic, like the way they took the word gang stalking and kind of played with it, like they see gangs of stalkers. Like it sounds like Twilight Zone, it sounds like a mental illness Twilight Zone. I'm like, that's a really good way to discredit people. But at the time when I first made these videos, like I was just in the beginning phases of it, and like I don't remember ever talking to many people out in public about it. Most of my life, like I never really, the few people I ever mentioned it to, my parents, and like a couple people here and there. And there were some people, actually, as small a circle as I had, there were some people who did not claim that I was crazy, and at the same time experienced it themselves. But they were very, like, they didn't say it in a fully direct fashion, but they're like, yeah, there is some weird stuff going on, kind of thing, but we better not talk about it. I'll give you a nod, but I'm not going to go into a lecture about it, is basically what they told me. And because they feared, because if they told me too much, it could hurt their lives and make their own targeting works. So, but I would have to say, for a person who knew, as myself, who knew very few people, to know like just to know like 2 or 3 people who were also targeted is like, wow, like it must really be a lot of people for somebody like in a group of, say, knowing like 5 people your whole life, running into 2 others, you know. So I don't think this is anything that is even considered rare at this point. But you know, if you, I'm sorry if the only way, like if you listen to my videos, you have to think of it as like really like a radio show that goes on all levels. And you know, I have a very hard time sticking to one succinct subject in a very direct manner. My mind doesn't work like that. My mind kind of is like a pinball machine. If you've ever played pinball, and it just, that's how, you know, my brain, the thought would be the ball, and the ball goes in 25 directions, and then eventually it goes, I believe they call it the gutter, and then it goes back out again. And I have that is just how my mind works. And if you don't, you know, you're welcome to say how bad of a video I made. And you know, you're welcome, because I'm sure those are the only comments that are gonna be on this page. As you can look at my videos, some of them are like from, I don't know, maybe 12 years ago. And you know, so if you're welcome to leave, including negative. You're welcome also to leave any. You're welcome to leave any remarks you want to leave. Put it like that in a general sense, good or bad. You know, you probably will be bad, but you know, that is the symbol of when you know you're targeted, when all you ever get is negative feedback. And in one video I was listening to that I made this video I don't know how many years ago, but I said to myself, I'm looking at these other people who claim to be targeted. I'm like, why is it that on their own website or their own Facebook page or YouTube, like, there's not one person who ever harasses them or ever has a single bad word to say about them? And it's like, if you're being targeted, why aren't you being targeted on the internet? And you know, that goes into a whole another aspect of, you got to realize, those of you who are out there who really are targeted will probably never even see or be able to listen to other targeted people's videos. There's a song years ago, I'm trying to think, I believe the group's name is Offspring. The group's name is Offspring. The song is called Gotta Keep 'Em Separated. And that is how targeting works, because those, generally speaking, I mean, you can rant, like, you can know people that maybe you knew them, like in my case, I knew people many years in my life who later on, they knew I was targeted and they hid it from me. Later on, they became targeted. But as far as like strangers, like, you know, people, like if you want to meet a new person in your life, like, you do not want to go to one of these groups to say, I'm going to meet other people who are also targeted like me so that we could discuss ideas. Like, that is not the place to go, because those places, you're gonna be basically the bait. You know, they're the fishermen baiting you as the target if you go to a place like that. So I would not ever, in a million years, recommend, if any, I would have to say, if you are listening to this video, you probably are not targeted, and you're probably listening to this video as a person who is what, as the saying goes, a monitor. They call it a monitor. So I'm really, you know, I don't want to be doing too much of a video right now trying, you know, targeted individual activism, because it's useless, because the only person I could help as a TI is myself, because there will not be one person who does listen to this video who is targeted. They will not be allowed to find the video. All the people who are in this program are all separated from each other, regardless of like how it appears on Facebook or internet groups. Like, they are meant to be kept separate. They are single and separate. They are not allowed to make a community. The community that the community that is perceived to be made as a sort of support network is a false community. Doesn't mean all the videos that you find are entirely lies. I mean, if you watch the videos that are presented to you, somebody claiming that they're going through gang stalking or directed energy weapons or all form like the legalistics of what they're discussing are true. Is that person really targeted the person who is coming on the screen to tell you these things? Probably not. If I would say almost definitely not. Unless like they could use that. Sometimes they do use people's videos, that people who really were targeted who are no longer alive, and they might, but this is not really this is not the direction I wanted to go in this first video, because I get sick of the whole subject. The subject is like, it's like somebody like, like you ever, like if there's a traffic accident on the road and people, oh my god, look what happened, everybody slows down the car. They slow down the car, they want to, what happened, who got hurt, is everybody alright? Like it's like you don't want to talk about it, but it's right in your face, so it's hard not to talk about, because it's an everyday endless like psychological, like it's in your sleep even, it's while you sleep, it's while you're awake, and it becomes a topic that, as much as you get sick talking about it, it just goes right back to square one. But alright, that is all I'm gonna. Everybody knows about this stuff by now. When I first did those videos, like it wasn't as well known, at least in the internet circle. I mean, like people say that the whole TI thing goes back like endless amounts of years, like centuries, whatever. It wasn't always called that. It's a modern day term for like a cat and mouse game. That is, all of society is really a cat and mouse game. It's just a different version. It's for some, not all, but for some, it's a much lighter version of just the history of humanity. It's not really like, it's as it's explained in online and in groups, like it's sort of like a post 9/11 world version of the same thing that's been going on for millennia, since Cain and Abel, as I always love to mention that, part of the Bible in Genesis, Cain and Abel pleased God, Cain got jealous and killed him. Abel was the first TI, put it like that. If not, I mean, Jesus truly, but Jesus was the TI later after Cain and Abel, but same concept, Abel was a TI, if you want to, and most people use Jesus as the ultimate. He was number one, but like that is just society, that is just how it works. And it's not really like a new phenomenon. It's just a different version. So, alright, well, what are the other, that's enough about that whole subject now. I'm done with that subject. So I'm just gonna, I'll label the video on whatever topics it is, and whatever, or maybe I'll just give it some random clickbait name. I really don't want this, I can't believe I almost went on 15 minutes, but yeah. that was a whole 15 minutes that I don't know where it went. But alright, so the next 15 minutes, my ultimate favorite topic of all topics, beyond politics, beyond any topic on the face of this planet, God is my favorite topic of all topics. Some people say the two most important topics are God and politics, and I agree with that, but in modern society taught us don't talk about politics and religion to stop fights, because certainly both topics create a lot of fights, a lot of division, and wars have been created over both topics. However, if we don't talk about politics and religion, and I think I'm annoying one of the cats that are in this house, either that or I don't know. There was another person that used to listen to his videos all the time, and every time he would do videos, his dog would start barking. And I said, that's interesting. And now, one of the cats is growling, and I hope it's not for me. But I think I've got a whole neighborhood growling at me at this point. But all right. So God, all right, let's, remember that if this video is gonna go absolutely nowhere, so it doesn't have to be good. If you want to leave a comment and say how horrible a video I made, you're welcome to do it. And I'll say, okay, I guess you're right. I gave it a shot. Some people say I want to learn how to play baseball, and they just don't know how to play baseball. And some other people become Babe Ruth. So I'm really just throwing out things here randomly, and none of this has to be good. And if it's totally bad, it's 100% your right to tell me how horrible of a YouTube content creator I am. And if you want to start the thing, yes, I'm not a doctor. I never claimed to be a doctor. The reason my YouTube name is Dr. R. Quincy is based on the 1970s TV show Quincy M.E. I'm not claiming to be a doctor. I just borrowed it from a television show. So, I got some people, they're like, oh, you don't sound intelligent enough to be a doctor. And I'm like, well, point taken. I'm not a doctor. I don't even have any college degree. All I have is a GED and a couple college credits. So, if you want to say I'm stupid, I would pretty much say, you're, partially right, because I'm not a genius. If you want to say that I'm a know-it-all, I'm not. I don't think you could claim I'm a know-it-all. I'm just here doing the same thing that all these people I always watch on YouTube do, who get the comments. Preach it, bro. Well said, bro. Keep up the good work, bro. And I make a video when it's you're mentally ill, you don't know what you're talking about. You should shut your mouth, but that's just the nature of how, that's just the society of how it works. It's not, and like I say, I'm not saying that these videos, any of the ones I made in the past, and this one certainly not, I'm not saying these videos are good. Honestly, I'm almost at 20 minutes of this, and I'm saying this is a horrible video. But I'm just trying to experiment with it, and I just want to see what it's like because now how quick the dichotomy changes when you're creating a YouTube video. Somehow if you turn a microphone on, it's no longer mental illness. I say, isn't that amazing? You just use a microphone on a computer or even on a smartphone, and it's like the mental illness claim is gone. And isn't that fascinating? If I turned this microphone off and kept doing this, the mental illness light goes back on. And I'm just like, that's just meandering. But all right, let's finally, after a whole 20 minutes of this nonsense. All right, I'm gonna go like the ultimate 101 of people say, okay, you believe in God. Many of them, the people I know most of my life, majority of people say they didn't believe in God, but I told them that I did. So they're like, why is it, what is it about life or reality that makes you believe in God? I would say, where does the meaning of what is God, right? Why is it the word God? Where does the word God stem from? Good, right? God, everything God ever created was good. So God, you take the O out, good is God, but so then you have people, well, they say, well, that's true. Why did God create evil things? Now that's a little misconstrued, because God had the knowledge. See, God is all-knowing. So for a God to be all-knowing, he has to have the knowledge of what evil is. Otherwise, he would not know all things. And, then it was a necessity for an all-knowing, supreme creator of all that exists to understand the nature of evil. So, this is just very simple thing. So you go to Adam and Eve, that the problem was, God had to make the option. He can't have people going around, who only know good things and withholding the free will to make a choice between good and what is not good. Because there is no love without choices. So, this is very simple things I'm going into. Like I said, so you have the tree, the knowledge of good and evil. The tree was placed there, and he's like, don't eat from this tree, or you'll surely die. If you don't eat from this tree, I give you everything you want, paradise, forever, beauty, tons and tons of things, live forever, not a care in the world, never have to work, never, paradise. Genesis 1, like they could have had paradise, right? Right at the beginning. But then, the serpent, and then the serpent, well, he's like, all right, if you eat from this tree, he's like, you're going to become like a god, basically. You're going to know everything. You're going to know everything. You're going to have all this power. And don't listen to God. You won't die. The first, liar on the face of this earth that came, the serpent, because that, the first, car salesman that tells you that the car works, there's no problems, and then it breaks down. I am a silly person. You could attack me for that too, but that's the nature of the serpent. The first used car salesman, the serpent telling you, oh no, the car works great. No, I tested it. There's no problems with it. The engine's fine. No electricity problems. Then you're on the road and the brakes fail. Whatever. You get it. So that's the name. That's all right. So you say. When you say it's not that God wanted evil things in this world, it's that for one, he had knowledge of them. Number two, people have to make a choice between good and evil, otherwise we're robots. So people have to decide, do you want to do something good for somebody, or do you want to hurt somebody? And nobody does one or the other 100% level. We've all done both good things and evil things. I would, as much as we've all done bad things, I would say 99.99%. So, people probably almost all done at least one good thing. Even the most wicked people have probably done at least a couple of good things on the opposite end. So, like I said, this does not. I don't. If you think this is a rambling video, you're welcome to say it. I'd rather you say that than nothing. But what was I gonna say? It's like, so why do I believe there is a God? Number one, because I believe that good things exist. I read the Bible. That you read Genesis, pretty much 1 to 3 to 4. I don't know the exact stretch of what I'm going through, but anything you read in the Bible, and it's not a book like that. I'm a lot of times I have a very hard time picking up the Bible. But when I read it, I read 2 pages, and it's mind blowing. Like, just 2 pages of the Bible, I get mind blown on. I could talk like a month about 2 pages, and that's why it's so hard for me to read the entire book. Like, they say, oh, you got to read the Bible every single day if you're a true Christian. You got to read it and put it to work. You read 3 verses in the morning, and then you follow through the rest of the day. And my mind just does not work like that. It's not only the Bible that I don't read every day. I don't read any books. The Bible is the only book I read. In fact, it's the only one. I don't own, at this point. I used to own some books. The Bible is the only one I own now, and there might be another book somewhere. And I mean, if you're only gonna own one book, it's the best one to own. But so those are not the only reasons I believe in God. I mean, if you look at creation and how our lives, the moral purpose of people's lives, I say, where does love and morality come from? From primordial slime? Doesn't quite make sense. I say, if there's no God, it means there's no love, basically, because where did love come from without the concept of God? There's so many examples. Some people put it simply, you have eyes to see and ears to hear is enough to know from a child that, like, this is not random. This is not like if you look at evolutionists, like when evolutionists talk, they say, oh, this happened 5 million years ago. Mankind was this way, and there was this. Like, it makes you feel so meaningless in the world to think like that. To think of how far back they mention all this history, all this slow progress until we reach the point now where we all stand up straight, and then we created capitalism and communism and nations and but then go back 10 million years ago, or we were hunchbacks, and I don't understand evolutionary theory. It's just if you do believe in evolutionary theory, you're really belittling your own humanity, because if you follow those concepts, you're saying to yourself that life has been going on for millions of billions of years, and you make yourself feel meaningless. And you're not meaningless, is what I'm trying to say. Even in your own death, you say to yourself, well, one day I die, and it's none of it ever mattered. And it completely takes all the joy out of existing without the concept of God. Without God, there is no purpose. So but people would also interject on me with that. Well, they say, well, that's why you believe in God, because it gives you a sense of meaning and purpose. But it's not that it gives me a sense, it's that I know that there is a meaning and purpose to this life. And I know that this life is not just about, you're 5 years old, you go to school, they teach you better get good grades, so you get a good education, you get a good job, you have a nice house, a nice car, a wife, and kids, and vacations, and you succeed, and then you're well respected community member. Then one day you pass away, and they put the obituary. And they say he was a good man. May he rest in peace. And then, like that's the world philosophy. That if you don't do that as the world standard of what that to have prestige in some kind of field, hey, there's tons of them. That if to not do that means that the world standard means then you were a failure, or you were a person that did not measure up to whatever success is. Like, I guess it's basically that you worked hard and you made an impression in the community, and the community respected you. You made a decent salary. You had the things the world provided. Trust me, I'm not saying that's whole. It's not that it's a bad thing. It's just that without God in the picture, like let's say somehow I could electroshock my brain into believing that there is no God. Let's say I woke up one morning, say, okay, yeah, these atheists are right. There is no God. What am I gonna do today? And it's like, let's say, I mean, for me, I don't think if I knew there was no God, I would not be doing evil things. Just because in my mind saying to myself, well, there's no God, so I could do whatever I want, so let me do evil things. I wouldn't be like that. But one thing I would say to myself is if there was no God that, and I was assured of it somehow in my head or my mind, what would I do? What would be the point every day? I would say it would just be such a I wouldn't even say it would lead me to suicide. I don't think it would really change my life at all, except for the notion that I would feel a complete loss of hope in reality. But of course, I know there's a God in my heart. I know there's a God. The prophecies of the Bible have, so many of them have come true. I believe we are in the end times. How far in, I'm not sure, but I can't put a year on it. I wish I could. But I look at the degradation of society, morally, spiritually, well, everything. The Bible predicts that most, in these times, that there'll be a great deal of people that do not believe. It mentions about, things like, you had, the 1969 is the year they label as a satanic revolution with, what was his name, Anna LaVey. He wrote the Satanic Bible, 1969. And if you look at if you think of that year and into the 70s and all the things that happened in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, that was a very huge shift from what the world was, 50s and 60s. Maybe because I was born in 78, and for me, if I was a child, the 80s felt innocent to me, but they were not innocent. Not. You really can't. There's not many periods in history that you could say were innocent, but there was a satanic movement that started. If you go back to, say, earlier times, I don't know all the history, but let's say the 40s and 50s. Let's say it was in 1940s, and you owned a house and you put a pentagram on the front door. Let's say it's a beautiful house, and you had a pentagram on the front door. If you would have did that, at least from what I could gather, at least in America, let's say, because I'm from Queens, if you would have did that in the 40s, people would be horrified, and everybody would stay away from you, and there would be all sorts of talk. But nowadays, it's like a fully accepted culture. Like, it's not like nobody blinks an eye to things like that nowadays. It's not that Satanism has become a majority religion. It's still a very, yes, I think somebody said, I don't know if it was just a play on numbers, but they said 6% of the U.S. is yeah, 6% Satanists. I don't know if that's true. It's probably not even that high, but it's a small set. I mean, people who openly say, if they say yes, remember, there's a lot of people who may be Satanists who flat out claim, oh no, I love Jesus, I'm a Christian. You can't, like, but of the ones who openly claim, like, it probably isn't even 6%, but I think, but I mean, if you went back to the 40s, like, there were no books, like, unless underground, like, there's always been underground books on any subject. But nowadays, you could go right on the internet and start reading the Satanic Bible. Or, like, you could probably go to a Barnes and Noble. They have books about witchcraft and occult. And it's just like, okay, if that's what you like, there it is. Here, you like Christian books, here's Christian books, But at one time, like, it was hugely frowned upon, and in past times the churches were more dedicated to the Bible, and Jesus was a concept that was taken a lot more seriously than now. And I think many people, Christian or not, know that Christianity is dying. But does that mean that doesn't mean that Christ doesn't exist based on a majority opinion, especially considering the fact that Christ said the falling away would occur before the rapture and before the 7-year tribulation. So if everybody at this point was like, most people Christian, everybody loves God, everybody cares about each other, love and smiles, you would not have a 7-year tribulation. The 7-year tribulation comes for the very fact of how people are turning worse spiritually, losing their faith, becoming self-absorbed, all kinds of all kinds of bad things going on. So for some people, if it happened in my case, you could actually find God through witnessing the evil of society. You can indeed. My mother, though, I have told people about it. She never confessed it to me, but I do believe she was, into occult and witchcraft and things of that nature. She didn't abuse me like typical form, like an abused child. Some of it she did, but I won't get into that because it's not necessary to talk about. Just to stay on topic, but she was into witchcraft and occult things, and I had horrific dreams about her as like a 2-year-old child, 2 or 3 years old, horrifying dreams about my own mom. But I loved my mom at that age, but I had these dreams, and they just went into the back file. But as time went on, as years went on, I said, yeah, she really did psychologically mess with me my entire life. And, I don't think my dad was even, so I don't think he was quite aware the whole time, because she was so masterful at hiding the things she did. She was like, people who are into things with witchcraft, rather, like there's witches that are terrified of my own mother, and they're witches themselves, and that she was a very powerful one, and she was the person that was closest to me most of my life. I really didn't have much of a social life or much of a social existence. I was a sheltered person. I'm still pretty much like an adult sort of child. And, she was the closest person to me for most of my life. She was very controlling. She was like always like, if you want to go slightly back to the topic of targeting, like she was the best gang stalker in my whole life. My own mother, I mean, she crowded me within inches, for years. And, it's all legal. She didn't break, well, mostly. I'm not going to get into what wasn't legal because it's a whole nother, but some of it wasn't, but most of it was. And, I've talked to people about it, and, all you usually get is like, no, that's your mom. She loves you. She misses you. You gotta go see her. And I'm not mad at her, but it's like, and it's not like, she's in the nursing home now, she's been there for a couple of years. And, what happened to her basically, she lost all her mobility. Like, she cannot, I mean, she can move her arms, but she's in a wheelchair. She could move her arms to eat. She's very weak, but she's not in pain. She's comfortable, but she's in one spot. And this is probably going to get more hate flack on me when I say, here's a person my whole life who's been always tried to crowd me like a gang stalker would, where it's like I can't go an inch without her being in my space. Like if I go one direction, she comes in that direction. I go another direction, she comes in another direction. And it's like she's right in, like I'm sleeping. She shakes me awake. They ask me like the silliest thing. Slamming at the door. Like, what happened, Mom? What happened? Oh, you left a beer can out here. Like, just weird stuff like that. Not criminal, like not even, like just weird. Like not even, like not horrifying like a horror movie. Like just weird stuff. And it's like, when somebody is, like, it's not, like it's a fully legal form of harassment to crowd somebody to death. And, and to think of what happened to her, it does feel, I hate to say it, I know everybody's, no, that's your mom, no, Mother's Day, love and smiles, roses. Like, that is a form of what biblically is stated, reap what you sow. Because she was crowding me in a certain fashion where, like, I couldn't budge practically. Hoarded the house, like, to the point of where you could barely move. Encircling me around the clock. If you try to leave, James, where'd you go? I was worried about, like that. Like, for you leave like 10 minutes, and in essence, this wasn't really that. So, what she sow is biblically true. Because now she's at the point, she can't, she's in a wheelchair, and she can't do these things to me no more. And she can't do them to anybody. That was the consequence. So I do believe in all sincerity that whatever kind of action you do to somebody, whether good or bad, if you do good things, you'll reap positive benefits. If you're a generous person, often you'll be rewarded in a way with that. If you're whatever direction it is, let's say whatever good or bad you do, you will pay some sort of it's not always right away. It can happen at the end of your life. It can happen right away, but it always happens. They call it karma, but I don't use that word. It's what you sow, you shall reap. So, and believe me, I'm not saying I'm a saint, because there's things I do bad that I have reaped negative consequences. Plenty of them. Plenty of things, like, for one, I'm an endless chatterbox. Like, I talk too much. I annoy people too much with my endless diarrhea of words and always blah 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 blah. So so how did I pay the price for that? Well, basically, years I was in a mental hospital where people wouldn't leave me alone for like a month, doing it to me. And I'm not saying that, like it's difficult to explain, but good or bad, like we all. That's another reason to believe in the Bible. That like a one-line verse, for what you sow, you'll reap. There's like the Bible. Like if you're smart enough, and if you're patient enough to go through the whole entire Bible, like you'll learn so much. Like you'll become Solomon. Beyond Solomon. If you have the mind for it. Not everybody has the mind for it, especially not the Old Testament. But yeah. So what I'm probably gonna. I got 45 minutes on this thing. I'm probably gonna close this out. But what I would say to the ones who want to leave like a negative or hateful comment. I know you're gonna be divided. Should I leave one? I'm gonna say I would encourage you to do it because it's better than no comments. So I think that you have to decide whether that's going to silence you or you're going to say, no, I just still want to hate on the guy. So I'm going to leave it there. And I don't know what I'm going to call this video. Maybe I'll clickbait it, but it's hard to clickbait a video this long. But, what I would say to like, to the monitors out there is I forgive you. And I do hope my case helps you to find Jesus Christ the Lord by what you've witnessed in all these years of, and of course, like all you monitors, like you might be new, you might, but you know the deal with the TI thing. So if you ever did study my case, I would hope that it helped you to realize that there is a God and that He loves you as He loves me, and whatever bad things you may have done, He forgives you, and I forgive you, and may God bless you, and stay safe, and stay well.